Especially
And I think
meds nowadays are
oh,
just, that's like the first thing they
100%.
prescribe without really diving in,
Yeah.
without really diving into a patient or someone that's really struggling. It seems like, and I'm noticing it a lot with kids nowadays too, where they'll just prescribe, take this pill, you'll be fine, you'll calm you down. But it's like fixing or painting over a wall that's rotting inside and not fixing, interior and just painting over it. That's why I feel like some of these meds are really are. Now, it's not a professional, of course, opinion, but
Yeah.
oftentimes I don't think doctors today really get to know what's the deep rooting cause of something or if someone really feeling that way. Would you say
Yeah.
that's somewhat accurate, or is it like, are they too forward
Yeah.
with prescribing things without really diagnosing it in a
Yeah,
different way?
man. That is it's such a tough topic because I believe that there's a time and a place for meds. I know that there is. I believe that the purpose of medication is meant to symptom manage for a time so that we can find a long-term solution. And
Um,
unfortunately, we use medication as a long-term
mm,
solution. Mental health, psychiatry is actually the only field of medicine that we don't measure the organ that we're going to treat. How
wow,
wild is that,
that's wild.
right? That if you went in, I think you said you do jujitsu. You know,
Mhm.
if you went in, if you tore your ACL and you went in and they said, "Hey, we don't know if it's torn. We're just going to pop you on the surgical table. We're going to go in and see what's up." You'd
Yeah.
go, "No, please.
Yeah.
Let's do a scan. Let's
Yeah.
figure out first. Like, what if it's not torn?"
Yep.
Versus, psychiatry, you fill out, maybe some paperwork or you talked about certain symptomology. And the reality is, anxiety alone can come from 50 different patterns in the brain, right? ADD, ADHD is the most misdiagnosed thing that I see day in and day out. Adderall, Ritalin are stimulants. So they speed the brain up so that we can focus. And I see a lot of already overstimulated kids with fast brains being put on stimulants because it mimics the same symptoms, right?
Mm.
Ooh, yikes. So, and that really, I see people kind of in this medication management cycle wanting to get out of it. And neurofeedback is a way to help your brain regulate to ultimately eliminate that need.
So, how would you treat a patient through neurofeedback, or how would one of your specialists treat a patient with
Yeah.
neurofeedback? What's a typical process look like?
Totally. So we do the brain map.
Mhm.
It's totally non-invasive. We put what looks like kind of a funky swim cap on their head, fill it with electrical gel, map all 19 sites, occipital, parietal, temporal lobes, to really see holistically what's happening
Mhm.
neurologically and electrically. Our treatment team, we create a series of individualized protocols. A brain map is a fingerprint to that person. There are
Mm.
no two that look the same. So no two
Wow.
sets of protocols can be identical.
Wow.
So we create individualized protocols, and then when they actually come in, they're doing the neurofeedback or the operant conditioning, which they have electrodes on their head, visual, auditory, sometimes tactile forms of reward, watching, listening, holding. And really, the feedback loop of neurofeedback is the electrodes pick up the electricity, goes into an amplifier, into software, and then gets fed back to them through those visual, auditory, and tactile. Those things, they really are working kind of as a mirror for the brain, that the brain gets to experience in real time what it's doing. Like if you've ever given a speech, right?
Mm.
Or something people tell you to practice in front of a mirror so that we can correct behavioral changes. With neurofeedback, we're correcting neurological. And it is through those reward based training. And it really is, it comes down to operant conditioning, right? That
Mm.
if we want to teach a child to walk, we set them down, we back away and we say, "Come towards me." And they walk towards you and maybe they stumble and fall. As adults, we do not say, "Ooh, tiny baby, your proprioception was a little bit off. Here's how to correct." You don't need to do
Yeah.
that. You give them reward, right? "Good job. Yeah, keep going." And their brain starts to auto correct. So we're setting thresholds and goals for their brains within the system. So as their brain is producing the appropriate brainwave activity, even in tiny hertz of microvoltage, which it will,
Mhm.
because we have reward seeking brains, as it starts to get that reward, it starts to ingrain new neural pathways.
I
And really,
see.
that's what we're doing, stimulus training.
So what you're looking for is new neural pathways of positive behavior, and letting the client know that, hey, this, you're on the right path. We're seeing a development, a positive development.
Absolutely. But
Mm.
it's happening. we try to, as a society, make everything thought-based, right? Positive thinking, positive outcomes, which I'm here for. I love some affirmations, all the things. At the end of the day, telling someone who has crippling anxiety and panic attacks, just think your way out of it.
Yeah.
No way. Right? Yeah. It would be like, hey, tomorrow forget how to walk.
Yeah.
No, that's a deeply ingrained neural pathway and muscle memory, right? We have to teach the brain to do something different on that deep neurological level, not that thought-based cognitive level. It's very different.
I see. So are there part of your company, are there like therapists as well that come in and help out, I would imagine, at the same time? And I would imagine psychologists, or how far mapped out does it get with specialists?
That's a great question. So some of my clinicians are more technicians, right? They
Okay.
are not licensed.
Okay.
I do have licensed counselors on staff as well. And we're trying to pair people with kind of, best of what they need and, best of what their brain is going to benefit from. We as a treatment team create all protocols and whatnot, but you're right. Some people need a little bit more of that talk therapy aspect as well. Some people come to us and are like, hey, I've been doing talk therapy for years.
And it's
I
good.
know my triggers. I know what's going on, and I just can't change my symptoms,
Mhm.
right? And some people are like, I've never done counseling. I don't know anything. What do we do here? So everybody's different. And again, we're going to develop a treatment plan completely individualized for that person.
That is awesome. And again, you're focusing on the brain to give you signs of what behaviors are where they are. I've recently actually last week, I believe, here in San Francisco, or the week before, time's flying, but I recently went to a Amex Centurion living event, and the host of that was a psychosis specialist. And
Mm-hmm.
it was a very interesting topic. A lot of it had to go back to childhood and people explaining some of their traumas that they can't overcome, or some of the
Yeah.
things that are holding them back, confidence issues, um, a lot of trauma, I would say. Um,
Mm-hmm.
does that ever play in with what you guys do, or do you see that a child's development somehow, what you're doing also somehow leads back to their child development?
Yeah, I mean, our brain starts developing in utero,
Mhm.
right? So you're and now we know that there's inner utero trauma that happens. So even, baby in mom's tummy can also experience
Wow.
trauma through that inner utero. So you're 100% right that so much of what we deal with is coming from earlier developmental style trauma. Some of it's not, right?
Mhm.
That some people had really, very healthy attachment, childhoods, and then something happened along the way, maybe a brain injury, maybe
Mhm.
a PTSD trauma, things like that. I would say a lot of times though, and especially what you mentioned, psychosis,
Mhm.
certain more of, kind of those certain diagnostic terms and whatnot usually come from earlier developmental trauma, which the brain shows patterns of
Wow.
that nothing can really hide from us in a brain map. Even though we're doing a brain map at a moment in time, I'm not only looking at that moment in time, I'm looking at the past 30, 40, 50 years of development. And it shows all these different little patterns, almost fingerprints for different things. So we see developmental style attachment trauma. We're seeing, PTSD style trauma. We're seeing prefrontal cortex issues with maybe, somebody with, dealing with bipolar or, borderline personality, or all these different things that we see. And it just comes down to brain patterns and us deciphering those.
So when you find a partner to date, are you going to put them through a brain test? Or I don't know if you are dating. I'm sorry. Maybe your partner now.
I'm in real talk. I am single. Rachel is married.
Okay.
We're a couple of psychos. We absolutely map the dudes who, so she's married. You think she didn't map her husband
I,
before she married him? We want to know.
I was
We want to
getting
know
I
what's
was
going on.
getting to that. I was like, if there's
It's
no
not even a question.
if there's nothing unturned in the brain map and it's all fingerprint based, this is a good idea to test your whoever you're dating to see if they are like hitting these red
It's
signs that you
not
want to
even
avoid.
a question.
Okay.
Listen, if somebody wants to chat, let's chat. Pop in for a brain map. It'll be fun for me.
Yeah.
So no, oh, absolutely. We map way too many people. We want all it's honestly, it's selfish and it gives me too much information, but that's what I'm here for. So
What
absolutely. Yep.
what
But I mean, Rachel got married, so she found a dude
she
with a
she
very healthy. brain and she chose him.
She found someone that she brain mapped and approved of the results. So what does a good brain map look like? To let's say you're, or is there no such thing? You know what I mean? Is it
There's every brain is amazing. Every
okay?
brain is amazing and unique and individual. There is no perfect brain. That's what
Okay.
I would say. There's no perfect brain. But it's all about, right, like there, I believe that there is no perfect body, right?
Yeah.
That we all have different, assets, and maybe, like you really have killer legs and they're strong for you, or maybe, hey, you have a really strong back. Some of us have a faster processing speed. That's great. But, maybe you're extremely intellectual, but also it leads to, some crippling
Yeah.
anxiety and worry. Or maybe, you have, some patterns for maybe a little bit more of, autism, right?
Hmm.
But you're extremely intellectual in these certain areas and it benefits you here. That all of our brains have amazing areas and all of our brains have areas that we can improve on, right? That even I train CEOs, I train professional athletes who it's not that they're coming to us because there's something just horribly cognitively wrong. They want their brain to be 1% better, faster, better, quicker, sleeping more
Hmm.
deeply. And that's what I'm here for. But no, there's no perfect brain. Every brain is amazing. There definitely are brains that are probably functioning more optimally for us.
Okay.
Um, but it just kind of depends on why people come to us.
That's so interesting. There, I agree with you. There's no perfect human. So that's cool to know. Now, do you find that in some people's brain maps, they have a particular pattern of being more intellectual and at the same time maybe less social, or is that something that you see based on clients?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That when we
Okay.
have, it's kind of IQ versus EQ, right?
Hmm.
That often, not all the time, but often if we have an extremely high IQ, a super fast processing speed, sometimes the areas of our brain that are more responsible for social understanding and social awareness are a little bit lesser functioning, right?
Interesting.
We only have a certain amount of electrical energy. It is finite, not infinite. So if our brain is utilizing all of its electrical energy in certain areas, it's not that there's just this never ending pot of energy to go everywhere, right? So absolutely, I see that. Or I see people who are extremely socially aware, highly empathetic, all these things. And, maybe they had to work really hard in school, right? That learning does not come as easily to them. There neither is better or worse, right? It's just a matter of, that's what makes humans so amazing, that we are unique and individual. If there was one brain that, was like, oh, that's the brain, how boring would we be?
Who do
Right.
you
And there,
think out there, whose brain would you want to brain map out there that you think is very, you know, unique, or
oh
someone that it
man.
could be a celebrity, it could be, it could be anybody. Whose brain would you pick to brain map?
Yeah. So because I'm a real freaking weirdo, I would probably get some serial killers in here and
Oh.
I'd be looking all up in their brain. I mean, we have done brain maps on serial killers, not so much QEEG,
Uh-huh.
but that's just like Angie personally. I'd be like, let's see
Yeah,
what's up.
yeah.
That generally that is that earlier developmental trauma, sociopathic
Hmm.
tendency. I want to know what's going on
There's
in
a
there.
show about that. I forgot the show's name.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like
Mhm.
but I'd want to I want to get hands on. Like
Okay.
I want my map. I'd love to map Elon. I bet his processing speed is
Yeah.
wild, and I'd
Yeah.
love to see it. So
I think he would be one candidate. Serial killers for sure are another. I would say top athletes. The performance of
yeah, I
their.
actually have mapped a
Yeah,
lot of top
yeah.
athletes, and their brains do show some similar patterns, often different. It also depends on the sport.
I see.
Different sports,
Hmm.
different brain maps,
Yeah.
right? Also, when you add in concussion, if they're NFL things like
Hmm.
that, or hockey. So I've gotten a pretty good taste of like really top performing athletes. But yeah, their brains are amazing and individual.